Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. 12:45 on the clock. It's Thursday, April 16th, 2026. I am trying to speak up a little more loudly than I probably usually am because I do have my air conditioner on. It's hot, unusually hot today, almost 90 degrees where I am in New Jersey. So it's non-negotiable to have the air on at this time. So I hope it's not a distraction. I hope you're doing well on this fine Thursday. Week's almost over. It's been a really fast one, but a good one for me personally. I hope something similar or satisfying or satisfying or savory for you. And cheers to the weekend just around the corner. All right, so let's see what we got. Oh, we have new moon in Aries on the 17th. I'm not sure of the time, but I'm pretty sure it's on the 17th. So there's that to prepare for. Yeah. All right, so let's do it. Should be a pretty exciting one. The effects of it. Yeah, because that would be the first new moon of the cosmic new year, right? Is that the high priestess? No, Ten of Swords. I don't know why I thought it was something's over, that's come to a dramatic ending. Let's see what that is. Oh, but here we are with acceleration. Something fast. What's coming in fast? Could be information. It could be energy. Could be downloads. Could be upgrades. Could be all of the above. Some type of advancement or enhancements. The Page of Cups. Definitely, enhancement felt really strange to me. Like, I just got the visual of like being worked on, but what I saw was really interesting because it wasn't like people. It was almost like, when you're having a surgery with robotic hands. That's what I saw. Real strange, right? I think it's called robotic or micro. I don't know, whatever that is. But when the doctor is using a robot or some type of like robot assistance to do the work, especially if it's something particularly tedious or like microscopic is the word I almost used. Interesting. Maybe somebody's getting ready for surgery or is considering some type of physical enhancements, beauty enhancements. Venus is in a good position, I believe, for such things. However, I just feel inclined to say with intention, if you are looking to like make certain enhancements or whatever, just make sure, first of all, you do all your research. You do not just a Instagram deep dive, but literally check someone's credentials, their references, their reviews, all of that, which seems obvious, but the amount of botched surgeries that you can see floating around in social media on any given day, or having enhancements, here it is, having enhancements done that look good now but have deteriorating effects, maybe even to your health, or over time have some type of adverse effect, like I'm sure not generally all Botox procedures, but at least some of the most popular ones have the effect of sometimes like hardening under the skin or moving around, and and then there's the issue of having to keep up with those injections and things like that, because once you start it, you kind of have to maintain it. And what effect does that having on you physically, psychologically even, and then of course your health, your health wise, maybe even spiritually, because like that fish in the cup is like a foreign, it shouldn't be in the cup, right? It should be in the ocean. So I don't know why I'm saying that, but just be deeply considerate of what you inject into your body, even if it's for something seemingly as harmless as a little enhancement, a little nip tuck, a little injection here or there. Consider the long-term effects and results, and consider the psychological what's the right word, motivation. Like, why are you really doing it? What are you seeing in the mirror? Like, the intention behind the enhancement matters more than the physical experience or actualization itself. What are you seeing? Because with this Page of Cups, it could really even be a nod to some type of I heard body dysmorphia, or just some type of like blemish, dare I say, or residue from like an unresolved childhood thing. Like, especially considering, I could speak on this firsthand, if you're doing some type of enhancements for weight, like a BBL or lipo or tummy tuck, or things of that nature. A lot of times it's fueled by a distorted view of yourself, particularly as an after effect of some type of childhood trauma, like being the fat kid, or always being the biggest one, or the bigger girl, or whatever the case may be, or having some family tell you like you're chunky or whatever, like those types of things that you never really resolve psychologically. Now you have the resources, and now they make it so easy for you to just nip tuck and snip that you never really actually confront and bring closure to the deeper issue at hand. So it never really goes away, which is why people find themselves like in this spiral of continuous enhancements, because they're trying to soothe a more sensitive infraction than just what they see in the mirror, So I don't know. That's that there. Me personally, I ain't getting on nobody's table unless I absolutely have to. I don't care how much money I have. I don't care how great the doctor is. It's just not happening. If I can't do it the natural way, if I can't, change my eating, buy a cream, meaning like for skin and stuff like that, exercise a little more, get me a good trainer, whatever the case may be, I am not resorting to surgery for simple beauty enhancements, because for me, the vanity is just not worth the risk. But that's just me. No shade, no judgment to anyone that does, but that's why I feel like I need to emphasize, the intentionality of it all, really and truly. Really weigh like what's the cost and the is it really worth the risk for what is oftentimes, whatever you do or get, short-term results anyway. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that could be a side note. That's so specific. I'm sure it's not going to be Anyway, let's move on. Let's see what else comes up. That can't be all we're talking about here. Yeah, look at this. Being happy with yourself. Being content with who you are, how you feel about you, what you look like, your accomplishments, the content. Is that the right word? Yeah, I guess the content of your character, which is invaluable, you know. And of course, we all want to look good and feel good, for sure. Like, I'm an advocate for that, even though I err more on the side of letting style be that enhancement, you know, expressing your confidence and your creativity through your personal style. That's my thing. However, it doesn't hurt to feel good in your skin, you know. But this is talking about that being much deeper, and there being so much more to gauge and measure that satisfaction by than simply what you look like. You know, this is really considering the totality of your existence, what you believe, like your morals in this world, how you treat people, how you make people feel, how you feel about yourself in regards to, which is kind of a reflection of all of that. Your esteem, your personal self-esteem, which is not foundationally aesthetic, you know, or superficial, but it can be some of that too, you know. Doesn't hurt to like what you see in the mirror. But yeah, it's like really an emphasis on deeply loving yourself and finding all the things about yourself to celebrate and appreciate. And the upgrade that I'm sensing is like, it feels like it is going to be something that's more internal, like psychological, spiritual, emotional, perhaps. It's a boost of confidence that may have an effect from the inside out and take, you know, it'll ultimately affect your aura if it doesn't actually affect you physically. So it could even be like I was saying, that those robotic hands like almost working on you. It could be those childhood wounds that are being treated finally. Those childhood afflictions perhaps that are being cured in some way, and it's producing almost like a glow up on the outside, where you literally are just beaming a little bit more. And you know, maybe nothing in particular has even changed about your physical appearance, but your aura is exuding that confidence and that happiness that is being cured on the inside. That's amazing. And it could even be like I was saying before, like that boost of energy and passion and drive to do all the things that you may feel inclined to do naturally, safely, securely, to let the outside match the inside type of thing. So now you have a whole bunch of extra energy and enthusiasm to go hit the gym 5-6 times a week or whatever, or run every day, or, you know, I don't know, whatever you like to do, swim or take a couple classes. But the enthusiasm is there because the psychological affliction is not. That's interesting. I love that. Two of Pentacles. Let's see what that's about. That's about balancing or managing maybe your time or resources, or maybe trying to decide between what to do first, because you have so much time. 1 o'clock on the dot. That was my alarm. I forgot I said that. 1 o'clock on the dot. Yeah, it's like a new, again, this initiation of identity, fresh identity, maybe even true identity, now that much of the debris, that 10 of Swords, has passed on. You know, that cycle is over, and this new influx of fresh energy is coming through. Maybe the likes of what's been under in the workings all winter long, perhaps. It may perhaps much longer than that, like winter almost being symbolically a season of transition or transformation, right? But certainly not exclusive or contained to winter. And now here it is. I think I did a message a couple, maybe last week or something, that was about like your breakout season or something like that. So now it could be a matter of having so much enthusiasm and energy that you have to figure out how to manage that time, and also manage yourself so you don't burn out. Maybe you look so good you're having to manage invitations or propositions or proposals in some way, or something here, but it doesn't feel heavy. It feels light, like just having to make wise decisions with what you do with yourself. Could even go back to what I was saying, like really considering weighing the cost and the risk and reward of certain enhancements, whether that be as practical as beauty or surgical, or something maybe even much deeper, but you have it seems there's a firmer foundation to make well-informed decisions on, because it wouldn't be out of scarcity per se, or out of insecurity more than anything, with this 9 of Cups here before the 2 of Pentacles. So it could even just being much more selective with yourself in some way, shape, or form. All right, let's see what else. What's after this 2 of Pentacles? Ooh, no, this came out in a struggle. 8 of Swords. Disempowerment? No, we're not going back there. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. To go from being advanced. Well, it is between these two. The upside is the 2 of Pentacles is situated between those two cards, and the lower end of this consideration is this 8 of Swords. So it's something, again, about making disempowered decisions, or not choosing at all, which can, being almost deferring your power of choice over to something else or someone else to make decisions for you, or the choices that are under consideration being made in a disempowered state, again, where there's an emphasis on being mindful of the source of the origin, I should say, of your motivation. Like, are you making this out of supreme security or insecurity or disempowerment? The choices that you are making day to day, big, great, and small, because whoever that I'm speaking to or of may be no stranger to this energy here, so therefore it wouldn't be hard to slip back into that, where you're making either unconscious decisions, or you're making decisions out of insecurity, which can ultimately be binding, like to go backwards in a sense to that state of, here it is, the Page of Cups, codependency or dependency in general, where you allow things to kind of like make your decisions for you, or your circumstances to dictate even your choices. And that could be a range of things. That could be societal, the conventions of society, and societal norms. That could be pressures in social media. That again could be like an inflation of old wounds that either haven't been properly healed, or maybe you didn't even know were there, so all of that can be taken into account here. But let me see what's after that, because that's not what we on. Like, no, you can't go from the Eight of Wands and end up at the Eight of Swords. That's way too much advancement and enhancement energetically to kind of just like throw it away. So I feel like we'll see what comes after, but it feels like just kind of an alert, and like an alert to be mindful of what's fueling, I even hear funding your decisions. I don't even know what that means. What's funding your decisions? Ooh, look at this, and here, thank you. That's confirmation that, yeah, we're beyond that. We're well beyond that. This is the most enhanced choice, decision making there can be really in the deck, is the Lovers. Choosing your higher self, you're deferring to your supreme self exclusively. Looking to the divine, let's look into source, like really making the highest frequency of choice that you can possibly perceive, and nothing less, if at all possible. Yeah, it's like there's been too much elevation and ascension here, and so maybe that's the thing of like just being in this transitional time, where everything is, this new you is something that you might be, I'll say this true you might feel new, let's say that, where you've been used to kind of operating in the dysfunctions of your preconditioning, or previous conditionings. So it's kind of new getting your bearings straight into this higher expression of yourself, whatever that may be, because you don't necessarily have a point of reference for it. Most of us don't, that is not corrupted, or tainted in some way, maybe by trauma, maybe just by projections, personally or societally, generally, every which way, up close and personal, and at a far distance. There's so many projections that have influenced how you see yourself. Just case in point, like how I've been talking about beauty enhancements or surgical enhancements. There's so many things that influence how you see yourself in the mirror and what you want to do about it, that it's hard to kind of separate where the projections begin and where they end, and where true you resides, or presides, I should say, if at all, in the midst of all that. So maybe this is just like a comfort to those that are considering whether or not they are in a productive headspace or spiritual space to fully embrace the magnitude of responsibility that they may feel just for themselves at this time, I feel like, yeah, that is something about that here. I want to really be able to get into that, because there, like I said, this true you, as 1 o'clock lit up on the phone from the alarm, it's like almost something that's kicking into gear, feeling almost instantaneously, so it may feel energetically, like I was saying, like the microscopic or robotic hands kind of working on you. A lot of the enhancements that you've overgone, you haven't really, like, your consciousness hasn't really been able to catch up with what may have been going on the inside, and perhaps even on the outside, unbeknownst to you in some ways. And now we're at the point where it is, where it's no longer, you're going to feel like this great disparity between what used to be you, like almost as a child, or in a different state of being, where you used to being told what to do, or even, subconsciously kind of directed a certain way, to being so profoundly conscious of everything that it may feel like a bit of added pressure to some degree to feel confident in the choices that not only that you're making, but maybe even in the array or expanded amount of choices that you are able to make, of which maybe you didn't feel you had the power to do so before, or what I mean? It's like when you're given so much more responsibility, or so much more variety, it almost feels a bit overwhelming to some degree. Yeah, it's not lack that's being managed here. I feel like it's a matter of just someone wanting to be sure that they are managing their infinite possibilities with wisdom, so not to revert back to that moment. Because what I was hearing as I was going is like, that's why I paused for a minute, because I'm like, well, how do I say that? Because it feels like the matter of like not really having a lot of things available to you before, but like plainly put, you go from not having a lot of resources, money specifically, to all of a sudden you got endless wealth, or just a great magnitude of wealth. That deep consideration now comes into play, where it's not a matter of managing a little, it's actually a matter of managing a lot, which can sometimes be more scary and more intimidating than the former, So it's something about, I don't necessarily see it as money. It feels like sovereignty, honestly, like just full creative control over self and the life that you live. But I'm likening it to money, because that's what most of us can relate to. Most of us can relate to having a little, and even at having a lot comparative to your little, whatever that range may be, uniquely. But it feels like that, where the thing about it is, what really needed to be worked on was your capacity to embrace, receive, and manage, like really balance this influx or new flow of, let's say, abundance, generally speaking, to again clear out that residue, that old programming, that old conditioning, maybe the trauma, the drama, whatever it is that may have been lying in the subconscious beneath the surface, or it may have been very clear and present, was a lot of what was being cleared and worked on and healed, so that there could come this resonance of supreme self-esteem, which put you in a position to be able to manage high level decisions and choices such as this. So the worry about whether will they, won't they, or whether or not you have the stuff to take on such great privilege and perhaps fortune and favor, that question is only as deep of a consideration as you allow it to be, because the answer is yes, you do have the stuff. You've already been curated to conduct yourself accordingly, and anything, that's why I was saying, like, this Eight of Swords doesn't even make sense, because that can only be you really reaching back to a mindset that may be a bit comfortable, or may be tempting to revisit, to literally tell yourself, whether it's personally or by way of the agreement you make with certain projections, that you don't have the stuff, that you're not worthy, that you're not trustworthy, that you're not responsible, that you are not wholly healed and all that good stuff, or not so good stuff. Only you can make that determination at this point, and even that feels like a lot of pressure, but anyway, what I'm trying to say is, like, you can, what I was trying to get to about the money piece is, like, you could easily be one of those ones that goes from rags to riches, and if your mentality wasn't cleansed and the psychology about prosperity and poverty, literally that could be the balance here, prosperity and poverty wasn't cleared, you could end up either living like a poor person, living scarcely with a whole bunch of money, or squandering it all away, and maybe a couple of other options in between as well. So that fear could, kind of be an undercurrent, so to speak, whether we're talking about money or something even far more precious than that here, like your own sovereignty or salvation, or, whatever, supremacy here. Take that word as you will. It, again, has already been, you have already been tried to be true. So if there's a consideration about whether or not the inside truly matches the outside, like, you may feel like the same old girl looking in the mirror, or guy looking in the mirror, but you feel something different and you sense something different about you on the inside. And this the curiosity, the wonder of whether or not the two are actually aligned, like, can the spirit match the physical or the carnal? And I feel like the answer is yes. That's ultimately what I'm trying to get to bring comfort to someone who might be somewhat apprehensive to fully believe in the capability that apparently the divine has trust in. That's what I'm getting here. Because what would have been the determining factor of that yay or nay was the healing aspect, particularly from childhood, or from, the upbringing or processing of maturity in any stage, at any age. But that's already been handled. Like I said, like, what you've done for yourself has been foundational. And also, like, I was seeing those robotic or microscopic hands going to work on you. That was the co-creativity that was happening on a divine level and on a much deeper level that you probably haven't come to terms with the efficacy of, because that's usually the last thing that you and your human existence would be able to you'll be the last to know of how ascended you truly are, because you're having the first-hand experience. So there might still be a deep consideration of just how evolved you truly are at this point, because maybe in some ways the evidence isn't all there, or it certainly isn't. It doesn't, like I said, the outside doesn't totally match the inside, or you could feel more expansive, or more a greater magnitude internally of power internally than your outside world is reflecting back to you. And so therefore it's like almost like a cognitive dissonance between the two realities. But I'm telling you that whoever I'm speaking to, you did that. And as a result, the divine did that. And so you just, at this point, should just be walking in your true identity and allowing yourself to get comfortable. Like there being no particular rush. Sometimes Aries can give that inflection of like a hurry up, get to it, an urgency, maybe even feeling like an urgency to catch up, or for your external world to catch up with what you feel, for you to finally feel that full sense of security. But it's okay at this point for you to live in the magnitude on the outside, meaning that projection, here it is, of confidence, of security, that's already, what it's like on the inside of you, and maybe to some degree there's been an apprehension or reluctance to really exhibit that. There it is, because once that's on display, you kind of have to stand by it and live by it. And so, okay, I'm getting it here. I get that. But that's why they pay you the big bucks. And that translates as to power, influence, trustworthiness, fortune, favor, whatever that is, energetically, because you have somehow mastered the true element of the true element of supreme self-esteem, which is integrity. And if you are living in integrity with the identity that you truly feel, like you should feel at ease to express that out loud, regardless of the response, or whatever the response may be, because it's something that's been cultivated organically within you. You don't really need the outside to validate that. And that's the whole point as to why you are validated from a supreme resonance, because you haven't needed that to get to this point of satisfaction and security with yourself where you are. I hope that makes sense. Let me get one more after the Lovers, even though I really could stop there, but I'm gonna get one more. What was that? Just curious. The Eight of Wands. Yeah, it's like you so much, and we saw the Ten of Swords, so it's like there's still the, maybe even the PTSD of the process. It's like, is it safe to come out yet? Like, is it safe here? Is everything all right? Like checking, do you have all your body parts, all is everything all intact? And you do, and everything is intact. And the scars, I feel like the battle wounds on account of this processing should be worn like a badge of honor. Like there's no shame in the process of maturity here, growing pains, if you will, because it's all been necessary. It's all been necessary. And once again, like this balancing act of like, I'm really trying to convey that the way that I feel it, because I feel like somebody feels a bit contain to truly express this identity that they may have even completely, come to terms with and embraced. Because I don't know, it's like there's some apprehension about, because it's one thing when you know who you are and you you express that on your own terms in private and in the comforts of the spaces that are safe to you. But like I said, it's another thing when you start to live out loud and it's not in solitude anymore. It's not behind the veil. It's not, secretly, like I thought that was the high priestess earlier. Like, it's not a mystery anymore. It's like very, well, your identity is well pronounced. Not like you going around telling everybody, this or that, or I do this or I'm that. Maybe you do, but it's something about this transition of going from being kind of like, a best kept secret to now being accessible, or dare I even say on display. There's a different resonance there, that can literally project to you either that old frequency of insecurity, or even invoke new frequencies of it, because you're operating in a new way. And it could have you to second guess and reconsider, is this the right way to be, or is this the right time, or am I expressing myself properly, or all those things, to just be in deep consideration, which could either have you hold back, and here it is, the Eight of Swords, where you kind of contain yourself and withhold your beauty and greatness from the world because of those, those insecurities and uncertainties. Or you live from that space of self-satisfaction, as the divine had always intended for you to do, purely so. It's either place can be a bit intimidating, for real, in some way, shape, or form. But it's really like, which has the greater value here? The security of falling back into obscurity, or the satisfaction of being on display? 127 just lit up on the clock. And that's the choice is definitely left up to you. Really and truly it is. Because even if the divine kicked you out from behind the curtain to stage, front, what is it? Stage center, front and center stage, however you say that, you could decide to scurry back behind those curtains if you want. You could run and hide if you choose to, but how satisfying would that be after all that you've gone through to get to a certain point, to really be happy with yourself and to be self-assured and to be self-actualized to some degree? What would that really, who and what would that serve? To decide like, oh no, this ain't for me. Interesting. What's that? Just curious. Seven of Pentacles. Yeah, because it's about the long term, not the short run. And some, like I said, you've invested so much at this point into just the feeling of security within yourself, that it would be unfortunate to waste such investments. And also what the divine has invested in you. And it's no pressure, it really is no pressure. It's encouragement, and not an urgency, but definitely an urge to, just be you. And what Tina Fey say? Do what you like and don't care if they love it. Or do what you love and don't care if they like it. One of those. I always mix it up. By the way, oh my goodness, look at this transformation. Yes, that is so, oh my gosh, that's so deep. By the way, there was a I'm only saying this kind of because I love Tina Fey, but also because it kind of goes with the whole beauty enhancement thing. There's now a SNL UK, which is hella funny. I didn't know that I would be able to really catch the humor because it's, it's more unique to the UK. But the clips that I have seen on YouTube are so funny, and she was the host of the premiere episode, and they did this ad. It was like a fake commercial, like it was supposed to be like a, I guess it was like a it was in the vein of like how those like ultra artistic perfume and fragrance commercials can be, but it was called, what was the name of that? Oh my god, it was called damn it, now I gotta look it up, because it was like supposed to be some type of beauty enhancer to keep you looking young. I know it's gonna come up right away because they don't have that many clips, but the name of the name of it was Underage, the anti-aging cream. Yeah, it was an aging cream. It was so funny. If just a little side note, but it goes with what I was saying. But basically, the premise of it, obviously, is they're pronouncing it underage, but the word is underage. And basically, it was like women pursuing these beauty standards, these beauty standards to look as young as possible, so young that their husbands or significant others keep getting accused of being like pedos, pretty much. It's super, super funny. She's in it, and I could tell it just got her hand written all over it. It's so clever and quirky, but relatable at the same time. And it kind of like goes with what I'm saying here, or at least how I started in the practical sense, with trying to keep up or wondering or really feeling stretched, I would say, like the Two of Pentacles, between these conventional standards and who you have evolved to be, and maybe sometimes against not just, like I said, the society and the culture overall, but maybe right up close and personal, from people that have known you forever, or think they have, or had a certain expectation of you, friends, family, co-workers, acquaintances, even in social media, where you may have cultivated a certain creativity through your platforms that has even worked for you, but it's time to expand or show a different side of yourself, and you might be torn between how that's going to be accepted or received, really, overall. And it's a dead issue, to like this transformation of supremacy through sovereignty, or sovereignty through supremacy. I think that one makes sense, because you had to choose yourself in the highest frequency and form before you could undertake the being of sovereignty holistically. But that is so absolute. That's what I'm getting with these two cards. It's so absolute and conclusive at this time that, like I said, you really couldn't hide it if you tried. It's like I was saying earlier, where you might look like the same old you to you in the mirror, but there's an aura about you now that precedes you, and you can try to tuck that away, or refuse to allow it to refuse to express it. But it'll only ultimately become a binding for you, and again, no one is served by that. So if it means that your breakout, your coming out, your reemergence, your introduction or reintroduction, and on whatever scale we're speaking of here, is astounding, maybe even to you, it's kind of like at the point of no return at this point, because you either allow that evolution to express itself, or you regress yourself back to a state of something that is far more unsavory and dissatisfying. And who wants to do the question, like, who wants to do that? Yeah, it can be scary to show up as something different than what your world is familiar with, or maybe even sometimes comfortable with. But it's kind of like divinely ordained at this point in time. And you've already made agreement with it. It's like it literally feels like a point of no return. Not because you can't regress, you can, but you could never return to that point of innocence, and dare I even say ignorance of your true self that was innate, to your everyday life. Because now you've known too much, you've seen yourself too much, and even if you were successful in containing that expression of yourself, it still wouldn't be without grave discomfort, maybe literally grave discomfort, unfortunately. Where the best part of you goes to die, is laid to rest on account of fear, or anxiety or insecurity. There's just no time, there's no space, there's just no allowance for that anymore, without it ultimately being a great detriment to you more than anything else or anyone else. So, yeah, something like that. Yeah. Oh, look at this. This could be like a hospital card again with the Four of Swords. Like, I feel like really it is just a submission to the truth of who you are at this point. Just really allowing yourself to kind of surrender to the new normal. And surrender sometimes can feel a bit intrusive, but in this case, it's just an allowance, like what's another word for surrender that doesn't feel so forced? Let me see. Because it's not forced. Like I said, you still have a choice, but the optimal choice, submission, of course, I use that a lot. Commit, succumb, all of that. I don't know. It's not really given what agree. Let's see, what is agree? Concur, consent, engage. Yeah, something like that more than anything. But, which is the opposite here. So literally, and here how I'm going to lay it down. Here's that lower frequency where you resist that great chalice, that great cup, which is ultimately the anointing of the divine by way of the Ace of Cups. Or you make agreement with it. And sometimes, like I said, the disparity seems silly in the grand scheme of things. Like when you lay it all out like this, like, why would I choose to have less when I can have more? But we know the cost of living out loud in a world such as this, by the world standards, right? What you don't have a point of reference for, and here it really is in a nutshell, is the reward for living out loud from the divine. You don't have a point of reference for that. And here is the breaking of that yoke of conditioning, because you know what could be in store for you, which is not absolute either, but we know that even if you have a huge embrace of your personal expression on any scale, there's a high possibility or likelihood that you'll have some sprinkles of some haters, or somebody that's going to refute who you say you are, challenge it, deny it, try to sabotage it, like, oh, bring it to an end, to some type of, conclusion, or bring you to some type of loss. We know that probability because you've experienced it. That you have a point of reference, that you have evidence for. But this new expression of you, true you, in a different era of time that we've never been in before as well, is a bit, I'll say, it can be intimidating or cause for deep consideration, simply on account of the fact that you've never been this way before. And that's okay, because I feel like for those that have already surmounted those odds to be at this point of position to even consider the two options. Some people don't have that consideration so fluidly, but whoever I'm talking to does. So to have that consideration already at your disposal, literally, is already a great feat. And so that is the founding evidence for how you continue to proceed, how you continue on in this new, and allow yourself to flex and find your footing with this expression, whatever we're talking about here. And then in that, as a result of that allowance, that agreement, there's no other option but for you to ultimately be in alignment for the spoils of that high level choice, which is acknowledged by the divine to be a difficult one. It's not for the faint of heart, it's not for the weak-minded. So the fact that you've already made that wise choice is why you're in alignment to be supported to continue on in that vein, which is why I was saying, act the part, be the part, look the part, talk the part, create in the part, even if you don't see the physical manifestations of what you believe, should be the resonance of that part. Because again, you don't have the point of reference, but as soon as it is imparted to you, and transferred to you in whatever way is most perceivable, and to your unique perception, it's going to be immensely confirming of the security and esteem that you cultivated for yourself before you had every reason to do so. And that will be even more, there's like a double down on the satisfaction piece and the security piece, because now you'll have that much more incentive to continue on in the vein of which you cultivated with less incentive in the past, which will ultimately make this point in time right here so moot, you know what I mean? The consideration of it all, because at that point, if you can allow yourself to get to that point where there's a materialistic, the fruition of your faith will be made evident to you. It won't even be a consideration of going back, of regressing, of suppressing self, because there'll be too much evidence for you to not, to be contrary to that mere thought, if you follow me. but it's just right here, right now, at this threshold of introduction or emergence, so to speak, that makes it kind of hazy and ultra considerate, because like I said, you have the evidence for what gets to happen in the lowest frequency, but you don't yet have the evidence, that sensation of affirmation in its totality, like the fullest of it all yet. But it's coming. You will. And in the meantime, keep conducting yourself as if you do, like you've already been doing. This is just that intense, like almost like super, I don't know, like I don't know what to call, like this energy of presence here that many of us are feeling, where it's like, I don't know, are we all right? Are we, you know, like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Just keep doing what you've been doing and being who you've been being, and you're going to eventually have all the confirmation and affirmation that your heart could ever desire. And at that point, there'll be no grounds for second guessing, and you'll absolutely be unstoppable for whatever is on the agenda moving forward. So if this is your moment to know that that's what you're pushing to, please don't regress at this point. Even if you have to rest, just don't regress. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna leave that there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, I'll leave you with peace.